Hi, so my name is Danielle Zachman, and what I found throughout this class is that a lot of who I am was influenced as a child. Particularly with the presentation we're giving now, it was a great opportunity for me to look a little bit more into that. For me, I'm gonna have to say, on my beliefs and my values and my schemas, a lot of that was kind of influenced from when I was younger. For example, I'd have to say that it is the nature versus nurture that played a really big part in a lot of who I am, because I am diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I would have to say that's definitely like a nature part of it, but the things I went through growing up probably definitely influenced the nurture part of it as well. However, I'm also going to say that the nature and nurture part took a hold probably 50-50, because chances are I would have developed it anyway, irregardless. I'm also gonna have to say that another big part of what influenced me growing up was growing up in the church, because for me, my values and my schemas often rely on helping other people and trying to do good, and I have to say that was pretty pressed upon as a child and when I was younger, so I feel like that definitely had an effect on it, and the conditioning part of it as well, because oftentimes when you would get rewarded for doing good things, you would get the positive feelings, praise from people around you, and overall there is just a lot of benefits to it that can be seen as like the conditioning part of it. I am going to start reading from my book now. So, in response to the part B of it, is I do believe that racism is a pretty prevalent problem, just because the more you look at it and how it affects different people in different parts of their lives, you see that a lot in the medical field as well. Like with the project we did earlier and the research we did on the father of the OBGYN and how a lot of what he believed translated across the board. I had already previously researched this sort of thing because I find it generally interesting, but more so it was like looking deeper into it to see the cause behind it and how far that carried in general. So I do believe that, and although I originally wouldn't have said that a few years ago, my mindset has changed quite a bit. And then I would definitely say I was exposed to quite a bit of bias against me in high school, because my senior year, I had my daughter, so I was a teen parent, and as I go to school in college now, I don't get to work a lot, so I definitely don't make as much money, and I found that when people hear that or we talk about that, there's the assumption that I'm lazy because I don't want to work as much, or another mother that I worked with assumed that I was being selfish because I wasn't willing to work full time and drop out of school. So I did find a little bit of bias there in the workplace, just because people seemed to assume that I was doing it the wrong way according to how they felt. And I will say one comment I distinctly remember when I was graduating high school that year wasn't from another student, it was actually from a parent asking if I really did graduate. So there was a lot of assumptions there, I suppose. So I would say that I've experienced some bias, and I've definitely overcome quite a few of my own biases in that time frame since, particularly against refugees, because in school and out of school I met quite a few people who were refugees from other countries, and I talked to them about their experiences and how it was for them. So I would definitely say that my exposure to biases has been pretty high in general. So, originally, I will definitely say when I was younger, I was a freeze person when it came to fight, flight, or freeze. I say this in particular because I remember one moment or two in 5th grade. Another one of my classmates, his name was Michael, he, for some unknown reason, slapped me across the face. We were really young, and I just remember being like in shock. And then they did it again. And for me, that was like a really defining moment in terms of like how I responded to things. Because I remember being completely confused at what was going on and very unsure of what to do next. Even though I really wanted to do something, I wasn't sure what the move was. This experience, however, did change for me. Well, not the experience, the response. Because years and years later, I was sexually assaulted by someone who I considered a friend. One thing I can distinctly remember is that same feeling of shock and wanting to do something but not sure what to do. And it's just the refusal to move or fight or react in any way. And I'm gonna say left me with a pretty severe fear of like physical contact that I'm not wholly in charge of. I also suffer from nightmares from it still, and sometimes it'll have like physical effects when I wake up. So I've woken up biting people, crying, just overall like sweating. So I'm gonna have to say that like my response definitely changed after that, because even in other things I found that my response now isn't so much to freeze up, it's to react, even in like my dreams when I'm sleeping. And leading into that would be the general adaptation syndrome. It basically boils down to the stages of stress and how our body goes through it. So that would be your body when you're confronted with a situation and you have the endocrine system releasing not endorphins, but adrenaline to your body, and it releases the signal in your brain for the fight versus flight. And as you go through these stages, it's no longer just your body's response, it's your brain's response to the situation. So that would be, as you go through the situations, your body no longer is the only real thing being affected. It's also your mind, and eventually you get to the exhaustion stage where you just can't do anything anymore. It feels like it's completely overwhelming. And then in turn, that goes back onto the body as well. So it ends up being just a big self-repeating cycle unless you're able to get a hold of it. And in terms of, the I've always struggled with my mental health for nearly a decade or so, I would say. I've definitely developed some great coping skills and some not so great coping skills in the process of it. But some of the better ones include talking it out with like my close friends, or if I'm seeing a therapist at the time, talking it out with them, which I found is really helpful for me because it kind of puts things into perspective and I can hear it out loud and it's not just bouncing around inside my head. Another coping strategy I found I like is I'll try to occupy my hands and my brain in other ways. So that can be cooking, doing my makeup, working out, anything basically that kind of pulls me away from the situation going on. It gives me like a break from it to step away. And a final coping strategy of mine that I really like is when I'm experiencing intense or irrational or really just charged emotions about someone or something or situation. Instead of calling, emailing, texting, or confronting the person, I will instead write it down in a notebook. I will just rant, talk about anything that I want. I'll go through all the stages that I feel like, and then I'll usually just rip it out of the notebook and burn it. I found this helps me quite a bit because it allows me to express how I'm feeling without damaging my relationship with the other person or risking it or jeopardizing it. These all help me relieve stress, I found, without damaging things going on around me. And it's really a nice way for me to be able to take a step back and like blow off steam in a healthier way. Because I do have some of the unhealthy coping strategies as well, such as overeating, oversleeping, or pushing myself towards the exhaustion stage. Just because I found once I'm in that stage, it's easier for me just to like shut down all at once rather than gradually. And I'm aware that it's not very healthy for a lot of reasons, but that's what I found happens. So I have definitely developed quite a few coping strategies to deal with the issues that I've encountered. And I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about me.